Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Priya, for taking us through that journey. Um, I really like to welcome any questions, but as we wait, um, my little query would be that how do you see this from the point of view of the small retailer? When we look at the size of philanthropy, uh, we're constantly talking about the large philanthropist, and it'll be interesting to hear a little bit more from you from the point of view of the smaller player. What is it? Is there a different motivation, or is it the same? Can we generalize similarly across the size of giving?
So, Amir, what we did is we basically divided our funders into three broad buckets, right? Actually, yeah, maybe four buckets. So one is the evolved funder, which is your USAIDs of the world, etc. And they understand the importance of investing in secretariats and monitoring, evaluation, and learning, etc. Our second kind of a funder was the private sector, where we built an alignment with shared value. It was important to ensure sustainability. The third is, again, private sector, but or the individual who's motivated more by philanthropy. The fourth one, which is the retail giver, is not somebody who we work with at Samhita. But interestingly enough, because we've now spent the last 10 months testing a lot of this out and learning from it, we're now, for example, talking to folks within the social stock exchange or other types of folks to understand if retail investors could be brought in. Most of our interventions are so small, right? I said the Kirana store is 2,250 rupees. In most cases, a returnable brand, the pay for performance is 3,000, 5,000. So 5,000 rupees of a retail donor's money actually unlocks 20 to 25,000 of, let's say, commercial money or more support from the government. So we've systematically tried to keep the cost per intervention very, very low, also very standardized, very measurable, very kind of trackable, and ideally kind of short impact windows, right? A woman takes a returnable grant, she uses it within 3 to 6 months, her business is already generating a lot of income, she's able to pay it back. So I think as much as possible, we've tried to design it like that, not just for our purposes, but so that our NGO partners in turn are also able to raise that kind of retail money from their set of donors. So it's been very much kind of kept in mind. We haven't gone to a retail ecosystem just yet, but we are hoping that, with the credibility, with the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, with the communication, with the capabilities, much easier now to go to a retail audience.
Yeah, thanks for that, because all of us are grappling with this whole issue of the retail giver. That's a new breed.
Sorry? Sorry, Amir, you were saying something?
Yeah. I know. Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a new stakeholder for us. We haven't done much, but I think the intent is to build towards that. I saw Vinita's comment. So Vinita, very keen to also talk to you about the work that we're doing in TB and using some of these instruments, where we've also put together like a community financing model for TB. I can talk about it separately. But I mean, the whole intention is to work with private sector, public sector, existing nonprofits, people's groups, and try and create kind of this blended finance model where it leverages everyone's core competencies, but unlocks a lot more money that's available, particularly for TB from the public health ecosystem. But I can talk about it separately. I mean, and to use kind of similar models for things like supporting construction workers, given that there are large BOCW budgets. We are doing like a matched funding model across most of our initiatives. And then obviously the intention is to focus on particularly education, as we want schools to get back, we want kids to get back, but also skilling and livelihood. So the hope is to use these instruments across multiple sectors, but always co-create the solution with NGO and corporate partners because they understand their communities a lot better than us. Any other questions? Or even just comments? And I mean, I'd love to hear about your work and to see if anything that I said resonates or is relevant.
If anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself, please.
Okay, in that case, I'm just going to type in my email address, and if anyone wants to reach out offline, happy to talk to you or even share the presentation, whatever you think is most helpful. Anjana, should we wrap up then?
Yeah, Priya, I had a question actually. We've been having these conversations for a while now, and the theme that comes out when we look at the small giver and also the small recipient is that collaboration, as you were talking about, but probably a platform that everybody is talking about where you can reach out to. And the small giver, when we spoke about, even Dr. Amir was talking about it. So, as an individual giver, we're most of the times confused as to where do we go and whom do you give it to, and what's the process going to be like. And the same thing goes out to the other end when there's a recipient. They're not too sure how to approach for that small amount of money. So, what do you think about that and collaboration and a platform in that sense? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, Anjana, for example, whether it's Give India or a lot of the other platforms that are currently there are kind of solving that problem, right? So I think our or Milap or the others. So I mean, at least our strategy is to try and collaborate with them as much as possible because they understand the pain point of the small giver, and it's not helpful for the small giver also to have 300 choices. It's good for there to be 2 or 3 kind of trusted platforms that they are able to engage with. In terms of the small receiver, so we had 2 options last year, right? One is to say, let's just open this fund up and anyone who applies, can get benefit. Or let's have a trust-based partnership. And we chose the latter because it was going to be impossible for us to figure out, if like this one woman entrepreneur in Guntur had applied, I mean, I don't have the ability to figure out who she is and what she needs. So we've kind of stayed with trust-based partnerships, which is either use nonprofits or social enterprises or solution providers or corporates to aggregate a set of vulnerable communities. And then it's easier for us to work with them for 2 reasons. One, we know who they are, but most importantly, not only do we know what they want, but because that nonprofit or that corporate or the solution provider is in there, they're far more likely to offer a more holistic, sustainable, multi-year kind of support. So we don't want our money to come in and then, like, God knows what happens, right? There's no sort of follow-up. So we've consciously chosen not to sort of invite everyone in, but try and do it through this trust partnership type of mechanism. And thereby also, in some sense, build out and strengthen the ecosystem.
Yep. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Sir, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Anjana, I'm happy to send you the presentation, and then, if anyone has any follow-up questions.
That'll be great. That'll be great.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Priya, for joining and also giving us this presentation and being part of this conversation that we've been having. Thank you so much, and hope to correspond with you again soon.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.